I'm a day late again. I should probably just plan to do these on Tuesdays because clearly my plan is to do it on the weekend and then have it ready for Monday. It's not working out. It's not working for me. So maybe I just need to make a change over here. But in my defense, it's really because of the moon phases. I know you don't care about this, but I'm just going to tell you anyways. This lunar month, technically the new moon was on a Sunday. So I start my entire calendar on all of the Sundays. However, the quarter moons and the full moon this month are all on Monday. So that means Monday, it ends up being a very busy day for me. So that's why so far these are coming out on Tuesdays because it just hasn't worked out. I'd also like to make daily videos, but right now I'm working on these articles for this series for the Mulapin, which if you watch this video, I'll put a link to it, the one about the path of the moon and the original 17 constellations of the zodiac. That's based on an article that I wrote that is on my website that you can get to in the video description. And I am making more of these articles, but they just keep getting longer and longer. So the next one that I'm doing is about Moon, which is the star cluster. So be sure to subscribe if you want to get notified when the video comes out. But it's already 6,000 words. It was supposed to be just this tiny little 2,000 words max, right? 2,500, 3,000. We would never go over that, right? It's at 6,000 words and it just keeps getting bigger. So I'd rather put more information in it in case anybody wants the information. But obviously it takes longer to edit. Got to cite your sources, got to do all of those things. And if you're extremely neurotic like me, I have to go back and check my translations, the cuneiform text. It's a whole thing. But that is the script for a much longer video that I would like to do. And it's taking up all of my free time. So no little videos, no little short videos in the interim outside of these weekly forecast videos, which getting back to the forecast video, this forecast is going to be for the week of July 3rd to July 9th. So we're backdating it just a little bit. And if you don't already know, I do this the same way every single time. I am doing this forecast from the location of the Giza pyramids. It's a nice lat long, and I think it works out very well. I'm also going to be doing it using Egyptian Standard Time. So when you use these calculations, you want to go and account for your current time zone, wherever that may be. This is also a very general forecast. We can't know exactly how these things are going to affect you without looking at your individual natal chart. If you are interested in knowing what that looks like or what your chart would have meant in Sumerian or Babylonian terms, just let me know. I'm happy to help you figure that out. Let's go ahead. We're going to get rid of some of these things, bring out the constellations. Again, this is called Stellarium. This program, you can download it for free, stellarium.org, and you can see all of these things that I am telling you about. And if you don't already know, we like to focus on the moon here because the moon was the most important luminary in Sumerian and Babylonian times. The moon is basically the primary activating force in all of these astrological components. It is just whipping through the sky over 29-ish days, and it is causing all sorts of changes for us. As you can see here, it is transiting Sagittarius now until it's going to go right until probably about, we'll say most of the 4th, and we start to get this overlapping Capricorn energy. While it's in Sagittarius, we really want to be focusing on success. Whatever you want success in, personal, professional life, your relationships, your artistic projects, your physical body, your meditation, your spirituality, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want to be successful in, this is the time to work on these things. Part of this is coming from this close proximity to the galactic center. From the records that we have, any ancient culture that was aware of this portion of the sky, which I'm sure they all were, we just don't know about all of them, but all of those that were, for the most part, they all recognize this as being a very spiritually significant portion of the sky. And as you may or may not know, there's likely a giant black hole somewhere in the middle of the center of the galaxy or something similar to a black hole. I'm not going to go into the astrophysics side of things and theories, many theories which are promoted as though they are fact. Regardless, this is a very significant, very intuitive, very psychic portion of the sky. So anytime the moon is in this area, we're going to have increased psychic sensitivity. So I'm sure if you're Sagittarius, you have a lot of Sagittarius energy in your chart or a lot of Scorpio energy, probably very naturally intuitive and psychic and whatnot. This constellation was Pablo-Sag, and he was the chief ancestor. He was responsible for slaying some demons, healing, taking care of his family, making sure they were fed, protected. He had to take care of things spiritually and in the material world. And again, the moon's in here just activating everything. The moon is also here while it's full. So definitely increasing some of the focus here on controlling the material world and achieving success. Great time to ask for the promotion, all kinds of things, anything is good. Moving into this Capricorn energy. Capricorn is the most nurturing, most selfless, most devoted of all of the constellations. It has nothing to do with Saturn. It has nothing to do with being cold and domineering, calculating. All of that stuff is just made up nonsense. That is a direct result of the Greeks just claiming out of nowhere that Capricorn was ruled by Saturn. That's just a made up thing. It's not real. And none of those supposedly Saturnian traits have anything to do with Capricorn. Although Saturn was also not some scary harbinger of doom. Again, lots more conversations that we have to have later. But this is a fabulous time to do anything with your family, anything with your children, if you have children. If you're trying to conceive children, potentially this could help you out here. Any work that you want to do on your actual career with your relationships, this is just powerful, selfless energy to put into anything that you love and care about, whether that is an actual project or a thing or a relationship or person or even yourself. Fantastic time for any type of self-love and nurturing too. Just wonderful. Just love. This is just a time for love and peace and good stuff. And that's going to run us into really probably halfway through the 6th. Then we're going to start picking up some of this Aquarius energy. As you may or may not know, Saturn is right in the middle of this. So at a certain point, we are going to be conjunct with Saturn, although the entire time the moon's in here, it's going to be connecting with those Saturn energies. Now, Saturn was associated with Sagittarius. So all of that stuff we just talked about with Sagittarius, same thing. This is Ninurta energy. This is success, hunter, slaying of demons, healing. The slaying of demons and the healing was like all wrapped up into the same category in the ancient Near East. So if you want to exorcise some demons or work on healing your body, getting your diet under control, starting an exercise plan, any of those things, they're all beneficial. But while Saturn is in Aquarius, it's really bringing this Enki energy to the forefront. This is all innovation. If you don't know, the oldest creation story that we have on record comes from the Sumerians, and therein it is very clearly described that Enki, the god of craftsmen and essentially the sciences and all of these artistic, wonderful things, creates human beings. It really does sound like he creates them in a laboratory or some sort of very sciencey type of environment from some clay. They actually, I say they because there were these different goddesses that were involved and they were all helping. I digress, but they actually messed it up. The Bible Genesis version does not talk about the mess ups when the gods, even though they do say when the gods, they do refer to the gods as plural in the Old Testament in Genesis when we were talking about the creation of the universe. But in the case of the gods who were creating human beings, according to the Sumerians, they messed it up a few times. Some of them were deformed and the product of what you would think early versions of, I'm sure if we are doing this somewhere, we are creating humans or some other hybrid creatures, we're probably screwing it up too. They actually talked about that and what they did with each specimen that was not up to par. But anyways, Enki is primarily responsible for the creation of human beings, at least according to the Sumerians. He's also the one that saved humanity in the story of the flood. Again, these predate the biblical versions by quite some time, although pretty much every culture that remembers it has some version of this flood story. But Enki is basically the deity who gives the instructions on how to build the ark and so on and so forth. So Enki was an extremely benevolent figure, very much an artist, a craftsman, an innovator, a scientist, and we have all of that energy wrapped up here in Aquarius. While Saturn is here, there are some extreme advancements possible in these areas. That may not be a good thing right now, namely because of what's going on with AI. What I would challenge you to do, because obviously that's like a bigger issue and AI has been in development for quite some time. But what I would challenge you to do is pay attention to this conjunction, especially, let's see, when is this going to be? And I'm asking you to do it because I'm probably going to be checked out writing articles and not paying attention to the news quite as much. But if you follow anything in those areas, keep an eye out for events that happen on the 7th, news that comes out on the 7th, although technically the actual innovations are likely to happen on the 7th, and then we won't hear about them a little bit later. So maybe retrospectively come back, but also look in your own life to see what out of the box thinking you did, what original ideas you had. Great time for brainstorming. And if you want to write that movie script, that novel, any of those creative projects that you've been working on, phenomenal time to take advantage of this energy. And we start to cross over into the fish or swallow of Pisces over here, midday on the 8th. So again, always we're going to get some little bit of overlap here. Yes, it is important, especially when you're doing natal astrology, to see the exact placement of where these planets are. But while this is happening, we can expect an increase in our natural intuition, psychic ability if you do any type of ritual work, deep meditation, spiritual healing. All spiritual efforts are benefited while the moon's in Pisces. Obviously, and I know I'm going forward a little bit, probably a good thing because I haven't been doing this until Tuesday every week. It's probably good if we go a couple extra days. When the moon does come close to Jupiter in particular, in basically the head of Ketus. Technically, yes, it's Aries, but we're still getting this fish of Pisces energy mixed up in this portion of the sky. This is a powerful karmic relationship activator. I will talk about this again next week, but just know if you have anything coming up on this date, and this is probably going to be anytime on the 11th, really the 10th or the 12th, you're still going to be feeling some of this. Pay very close attention to your dreams while this is happening. But if you're in any type of karmic relationship or you've been waiting for the person, interesting things happen during this time. If you don't already, be sure to keep some sort of astrology journal so you can get a better idea of how these things are impacting you as an individual. As you can see on the 3rd, and this happened basically from the 1st, and let's see, it's going to carry us all the way. We're still getting a lot of it, basically the entire week. First of all, the sun and Mercury are usually close to each other. They never really stray that far, but we're going to get the biggest conjunction here on the 1st, and this is when the energy is going to be the most intense. Obviously, Mercury is very cognitive. The sun, in many respects, is also very cognitive. When they are together, though, they are especially cognitive. Now, if your chart sets you up to be an analyzer, maybe a hyper analyzer, or even if it doesn't, we still have a lot of this energy in here, you're probably more likely to way overthink things. Now, this is especially true when it comes to relationships. I don't just mean romantic relationships, any type of relationships, namely because this is all taking place right in the middle of Gemini as it's transiting. This can result in some natural telepathy. So if you are in a relationship, again, doesn't have to be romantic, but usually that's where people are paying attention. Usually if somebody's watching an astrology video, they're looking for relationship information, or at least most of them are. In which case, this kind of puts you on the same page with your partner. Could be a business partner, romantic partners too. This is a type of thing where people answer questions that were not necessarily asked out loud. We definitely get some visions of the future with our partners. So any meditation that you're doing, you should be able to tune into some very real future events. Really, we're going to feel this for a while because, as you can see, they're going to be around each other for a while. I would also say, for those of you who are coming to this video for relationship advice, this is a good time for networking, good time for communication, talking to people, meeting new people. I'm not saying to go on dating apps necessarily, but definitely be a little bit more social right now. You are much more likely to form very powerful empathic bonds with people. And you don't just need those for romantic partnerships. We need those for all of our relationships. As you may or may not know, Venus and Mars have been relatively conjunct for a while. So this takes us, we want to say, probably really we're feeling it into, I want to say mid-June is when it became very intense. It continues to be intense, especially on the 9th, which is a little bit, we talked about this a little bit, I think, in the last video, which is the last day that we were doing this forecast for, namely on the 9th, because not only do we have both of these planets entering Leo, we do also have a conjunction with Mars and Regulus, and Venus is basically conjunct with them too. This is going to be more noticeable on a global level. Some of these more general readings, when we don't have the individual charts, we can get a really good idea of what's going on in geopolitics. This is potentially disastrous. I'm just being honest with you. I don't know how else to frame it. Regulus was Inanna or Ishtar, as was Venus. So this is Venus coming home. She's right here. And when she's in Leo, she's taking out of Venus is technically, we can find her other places in the sky too. But this is definitely a more aggressive version of Venus. More of her warlike traits and aspects start to come forward. On top of that, Mars is also right at home in Leo. This portion of the sky was associated with Nergal, and he was the god of war, death, and pestilence. Now, the Regulus, the king star in particular, was the breast of the lion, Inanna and Ishtar. But we have two deities of war, the masculine and the feminine, conjunct with Regulus right at this time. I would say that this time period, the end of the week here, we can expect within a few day range. And honestly, these two are going to be transiting here for a few days. So let me see here. Probably, oh, that's rough. That's rough. Yeah. So next week's probably worse. We'll just say, interesting. Let's take a look at it and see what's going to happen, because a lot of intense things are happening around Regulus, especially over here, like on the 21st. When the moon comes into the halo of these constellations and these other planets, the moon is the one that really intensifies and activates everything. It's like taking the energy and just blowing it up. That was probably a poor choice of words. Okay, I have to go pick up my daughter from football practice, or soccer practice, I guess is what they call it in some places. So I'm going to go do that. Share, subscribe. I will see you next week.